place of the moon, the breath of notice creates cresting waves in the sea of grass. Against the green, the blueness of the sky engulfs everything. Clouds graze lazily, shuffling along the depths of the atmosphere. I don't know where this vision came from, probably from a TikTok or Instagram video on my feed that ended up in my subconsciousness. But through the long year that was third year medical school, I kept rewinding the scene over and over again. And ever since I knew I was coming to the Middle Kingdom, I was determined to go to the Inner Mongolia area of China to see this projection with my own eyes. After arriving in Beijing at the end of July, I began to settle in, but the final weeks of summer always rushed by faster, and before I knew it, we had already reached the latter half of August. At this point, I was worried that I would miss the window of emerald grass before it transitioned to a golden brown as it grew cooler. So I bit the bullet and bought my tickets, with little plan or idea of what to expect. To go from Beijing to Hailar, the city that serves as the entrance to Inner Mongolia, you have two options. You can either fly there in just over 2 hours, the more popular and frankly reasonable method, or you can take the train. No, not that kind of train. The old-timey kind that you probably don't think of or associate with modern China, and end up arriving in Hailar after 28 hours. Luckily, I'm not pressed for time for once in my life, and so I decided to take the long way there to see the Chinese countryside and savor this trip. This is probably the first time in a long time where I felt like I could slow down. Feeling your foot pressed down on the brakes is a privilege, and I feel lucky to be in my current position. Nearing the end of medical school, having funding to go to a foreign country, taking a year off to do research, both to further my own career, but to also explore and grow as a person. But even though, by many traditional measures of success, I'm on the right path of some sort, I feel like I've just been treading water up until this point, all the way from middle school to completing my second board exam in medical school. Looking back now, I think I see signs of burnout. And yet, why do I feel guilty about taking time for myself? For me, privilege is often followed by guilt. I think about how hard my parents worked and sacrificed, along with how my friends are still working right now as they race towards the finish line in their final year of medical school, and the countless people that I haven't met who won't be afforded the same opportunities that I have. While I'm here, sitting on a train, thinking about how lucky I am to be able to take the long way and enjoy the view. Ever since studying economics in college, I often think about the opportunity cost of things. And while I don't think money is everything, there is an Asian practicality instilled in me by my parents that continues to ring in my mind. As a doctor, I will most likely be making several hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. This one year will cost me several hundreds of thousands of dollars. How privileged or stupid do I have to be to give up several hundreds of thousands of dollars? It's times like this that I begin to question what I'm doing here. Why did I decide to go to Inner Mongolia, especially taking the 28-hour train when it could have been a 2-hour flight? Why did I come all the way to China when I could wrap up my final year of medical school with my friends back home? Why did I pursue medicine in the first place if I knew it was going to cost me a decade plus of my life in freedom, time, and finances? Why did I even bother to pull myself up out of bed this morning? I know I have responses for every single one of these questions, but sometimes those answers are like a word that you've muttered too many times and no longer sounds right. But no matter what I do, if I dig too deep, I realize that at some point the reasoning falls apart, and either it's a vestigial value ingrained in me from my childhood or a hedonistic drive. But are really either that bad? The overthinking doesn't help either, and maybe that's why I like to work and be productive. It allows me to escape from these thoughts. One thing with opportunity cost, though, it assumes you know the outcome of every path, using it to compare between the paths walked down and foregone. But if I had chosen to fly from Beijing, wait straight through to finish my final year of medical school back in Boston, hadn't chosen to do medicine, or stayed in bed all day, I wouldn't have seen the fields of sorghum zooming by, mixed in with industrial equipment, both in use and in ruin, or land become less and less populated until we passed through hills becoming plains with pastures and rivers. How would I have met the old Gramps, who called me 小伙子 every time I exited and entered our bunk room, or seen him do his leg exercises at night before listening to his geopolitical podcast on his phone speakers before falling asleep, or the woman in the bunk next to me who meditated in bed through his podcast, or hung out in the dining cart having conversations with strangers passing by, learning about China's countryside and how trains still serve as a lifeline for some patients seeking care from hospitals in China's larger cities. I'll be able to think back to the train conductor who gifted me a bottle of tea and a gummer, or the mom with her teenage daughter stopping to talk to me warmly after hearing me talk with the conductor, relaying how heartened she was to see a young person conversing nicely with strangers. And me trying to reassure her that we all go through that phase when we're young and realize later how difficult it is too for our parents. Then it came back to me. I got out of bed this morning because I was excited for the people I have yet to meet and the places I want to see. I took a year off from medical school because being in China has been a goal for the past several years, and I didn't want to regret letting this opportunity go by. I chose medicine from all the shorter paths because I believed and still do in medicine's ability to touch people's lives. And I took the slow train because being young, free, and looking towards the next person, place, or thing, this time will surely come and go, but I won't let it pass me by. The faraway trains and clouds floating on the sea of grass will still be there when I arrive.
"哥们儿，你好。